Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I am delighted to be here with you. And this specific show is all about a series that I do together with my dear friend and my colleague, Rabbi Shlomo Gamora, called Parsha and Prose. How are you, Rabbi?
I'm very well, and I have to tell you, you are going to be delighted to hear. I spent Shavuot with my son in Washington, Maryland, in Silver Spring, and we have some listeners there too, which I didn't know. And one of them said that he enjoyed it very much. He feels that it's a breathe in the scenery of podcasts, which I was very delighted to hear it. I'm sure that you would love it too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, the reward for what we do is that indeed, that people are listening to us. And I have a sense that we're listened to a lot all over the world, which is a very special thing for me. And I know it is for you. Rabbi, before we get into Parsha and Prose, we have another segment, which is called Shivim Panim, where we talk about personal things, where we talk about Israel, the Jewish people. Today, by the way, the Parshat that we will be dealing with is Parshat Naso, and we will be learning it through the lens of a classic novel, which is Anna Karenina. I always struggle with the name of that. Tell us.
Yeah, it's a very Russian name, but it doesn't make a difference. It's to me maybe the best book ever written.
All right, so we will get into that. Before we do that, there's some sad news that we need to share. Right before we went to air, we discovered that there were four IDF soldiers who were killed in Khan Yunis, that a building that they were in collapsed, and there were another 5 IDF soldiers who were injured. They should rest in peace. I'd also like to remember Judy Weinstein Haggai, 70 years old, who was a Canadian citizen, and her dear husband, Gadi Haggai, 72, who were murdered by gunmen from the Mujahideen Brigade Group when they attacked kibbutz near Oz. A statement that came out recently said. So there's a lot to be sad about. We have to remind ourselves to be happy as well. But Rabbi, before we get into the happy phase of our show, I want to ask you, how do you deal with the depth of anti-Semitism in the world today?
You talk about the spread of anti-Semitism?
Yeah. How do you cope with it personally?
First of all, I'm not surprised, to be honest with you. I think that my knowledge of Jewish history just prepared me for this. We always like to think that, we are in a new world, we are free of all the old diseases that were part of the Jewish history for millennia. And no, I just learned that every few decades, even if you think that you manage to control this disease, it will burst out in this way or another.
But with all the news that's coming out having to do with anti-Semitism in Canada, in America, across the world, what do you do in order to make yourself, understand it, deal with it, and move forward as a Jew who is fighting for the betterment of our people?
As an educator, I feel that this is very dangerous, but it has also kind of opportunity. These challenges breed also opportunities, because it forces us to think, okay, what is what is our place in this world? Like, why we are so hated? Um, and I try all my career to give my students the feeling that they have nothing to be ashamed of. On the contrary, they have to be very proud of who they are. It doesn't mean that we are perfect, but it means that we carry such a long heritage and important heritage that hopefully one day it's going to be recognized. And the people who are more educated, I believe, really educated, I'm not talking about people who went to the best universities. Sometimes they are as uneducated as the peasants in Eastern Europe 300 years ago. There is no difference between the two, but maybe these people are having a tie and a suit, but basically they are not educated. They don't see the entire Jewish story. So my job is to tell the Jewish story, and that's what I try to do all my life, especially now. Especially now, because I think what is very, very important to highlight is that every one of us, every Jew, is part of a bigger story. And once we understand the big story, it's easier for us to locate ourselves on the spectrum from Avram Avinu to the end of generations. If you don't understand this story, there will be frustration, confusion, disbelief. I hope that I personally understand what's my mission as a Jew these days. And I always see, indeed, the past and the future. And I'm very happy that I'm in a present that can really grasp what happened and with more than one eye to gaze into the future. And I think that's exactly how Jew should live his life or her life. Always remember who we are, where we came from, and looking forward to the future. If we do it, it will be much easier to deal with the present.
Rabbi, you have a teacher's hearing, which means that you're focused on what your kids have to say. There are 1,400 of them in the school where you are a vice principal. Tell me what you're hearing from them about anti-Semitism.
The truth is that, especially here in Toronto, many of them live in a cocoon. They went to elementary school with other Jews. They go to high school with other Jews. Although we have more and more students who come from the public system, they want to be in a Jewish day school. The atmosphere is different. I hear stories about all kind of expressions of anti-Semitism in the places where they came from. And they are very grateful for a very different experience, a family experience here. But it's not only a shelter, as I said. What I love about our school is really trying to develop a Jew who is not just looking for a shelter from the world outside, but really understand what does it mean to be a Jew, a proud Jew. And that's what we try to give our students. And like 2 days ago, I'm going on in Costco. I don't know if you buy there, but I buy there a lot and shop there. And a guy came to me that I didn't recognize at the first glance. And then he said, "You're Rabbi Gemara from Chat, right?" So he said, "I want you to know you did a great job. I had 3 kids in Chat, and they went to university. They are in a workplace. They are proud Jews." And it made my day, because that's exactly what we try to do. And they face sometimes, covert or overt anti-Semitism, and they don't budge. They fight back. They proud of who they are. What can I tell you? I call it success.
Rabbi, what's at the core of pride to be a Jew? Why be proud to be a Jew?
Because we are people with a big why. We know, and if we don't, we will know what is our mission in this world. And happiness is always tied to understanding of why. We already spoke a few weeks ago about Viktor Frankl and the understanding of seeking meaningful life. I think we have very meaningful life towards ourselves, towards our family, our community, towards the world. And to me, that's the core of being a Jew, understanding where you are, what's your duties as a person, as a mensch. And I try to, transmit it to my students and to the people around me.
Are you familiar with individuals who are not Jewish, who consider themselves friends of Jews?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a very, I have to share with you an amazing story. About 10 years ago, I went to a summer course in Boston that was organized by a local university there. And it was a very high level of Hebrew course for teachers. It was a new way to teach Hebrew. I wanted to learn it. So I went to to Boston for 1 month to be part of this course, a very high level course. Interesting thing, many participants were Russian people who came from Russia. And one day I see one of them really sad, and he was always very dynamic, very happy. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "Didn't you hear? Like 2 soldiers were killed in on the border of Lebanon." Unfortunately, I have to say, we wake up many times, especially these days, to very sad news. You're sad for a few minutes and you go on with your life. But he was devastated. So I asked him if one of them is a relative or someone that he knew, because he was really agitated, very under the news. And he said, "No, I don't know them, but they're Jewish soldiers." So so I asked him where he comes from, what community, just to learn that the guy is not Jewish at all. He went to a university, can't remember, one of the smaller cities, 2 hours from Moscow. And he went to university that they teach Semitic languages, Arabic and Hebrew. And he's very happy to work in a school that teaches Hebrew. So he got the job. It's a big thing, although he had to drive every day 2.5 hours to the school back and forth. So I asked him, it's very interesting, because I'm really impressed that you are so shaken by the news. He said, "Of course I'm shaken. This is like my brothers were killed." And I said, "But you are not Jewish." It was very hard for me to accept it. And then it was the first time that he told me, "You have to know that many people see the Jews as the spearhead of the entire civilization. And if you suffer, the entire civilization suffer." And honestly, this was the first time that I had the privilege to talk to a person that sees us as people who stand in the forefront of civilization. Maybe I read it, maybe, even Tolstoy, that we are going to deal with today, had a beautiful piece about the Jews, although he like, I would say, Judaism, not so much the Jews. This is a different story, but it was the first time that I learned that there are people who are not Jewish and they understand the Jewish story. It inspires them.
I've been very fortunate throughout my work to meet many people like that. And I continually remind our Jewish family that there are many non-Jews out there who are our friends and who will fight for us. And to use a phrase that I think is becoming more popular, if God, chas v'chalila, God forbid, if we need hiding, that they will hide us. There's a fellow whom I mentioned before, my friend Caleb, who is a Noahite, and which means he follows the 7 laws of Noah. He's not Jewish, but wants to be one day. And he is a great, great lover of the Jewish people, and he sees who we are, and he wants to emulate that. And I often wonder to myself, what is the distinction, Rabbi, between those people who actually do see us and they understand what our fight is and they understand our struggle and they understand the light that we try to bring to the nations, and those who don't see it at all, who are completely blind to our character, to our personality, to our tafkid, to our purpose? What's the distinction?
Listen, God created human being with eyelashes, and sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. We can really turn ourselves to be blind. It's sometimes an instinct, and sometimes it's a decision that we can make not to see what's going on around us. And every human being is like this. Some people open their eyes, they want to see, they see the beauty, and sometimes see the issues that, as I said before, we are not perfect. There are people who sometimes grew upon this idea that there is nothing to look upon the Jews and to learn from them. Unfortunately, it's going for, as I say, millennia and thousands of years. And some of them, as I say, they just blind. They just blind. You have to spend some hours and some time with yourself to think about who the Jews are in order to understand this phenomena, which lasts for thousands of years, was always on the forefront of any human achievement, if it's science, if it's even history. Surviving unbelievable events, sometimes the most tragic ones, sometimes embraced by society that want them to mingle into it. If they would spend some time just to understand and to see this unbelievable social phenomenon, I think they might change their mind. And there are few. It's very, very interesting. Today, the best hasbara of Israel, some of it is done by Israeli Arabs. Some of them is done by people who are not Jewish, and they do a tremendous job. A tremendous job. Sometimes they explain Israel better than the Jews in Israel.
What is Hasbara, Rabbi?
Hasbara is just explaining what's going on, just to show the picture or behind the picture. Because people see very narrow spectrum. They don't, as I said, lack of time or lack of will to see what is behind the headline, what is behind the picture, what is behind everything. And unfortunately, as I said, listen, the human being in general is a little bit lazy to think too deep. So he opened the newspaper or today the internet, he see few picture, few explanation of people who are already biased, and he doesn't take the time to think a little bit deeper. But for people who think deeper, they see a bigger picture. And this is Hasbara. Hasbara try to bring Hasbara in Hebrew is actually explanation or commentary to explain to people that there is a big difference between reality and what they see. It's not the same.
Rabbi, before we head into Parsha and Prose, there's something that I often wondered about your position at the school and teaching so many children. Thank God you have such a beautiful career and a beautiful job, really. I know from my son that there seems to be a movement today amongst many young people to be atheists, not to believe in God and to question the position of the Jewish people in the world, were the chosen people. That concept is anathema to many, many young people who I think that they're trying very, very hard to find absolute equality amongst everybody. I think that's their motivation. Do you find within your environment a Jewish school, a Jewish high school? do you have discussions, arguments, debates with you, some of your students about those things, again, such as atheism versus monotheism, about, oh, Rabbi, do you really think the Jewish people are the chosen people? Does that come up amongst your students?
Absolutely, yes. Um, to be honest with you, I think that people who are open to the modern world and they still believe in God, you have to check if everything is okay with them. The modern, the, the modern world provide today so many answers and so many beautiful explanations to the world around us that people believe that they don't need anymore this belief that solve all the problems, that we are led by God. So I don't blame them at all, at all. Living in such a world, there is a hidden pressure not to believe in God. Why do you need God in your life? It's always associated with things that you cannot do and you shouldn't do. And of course, the moment you say that there is no God, then you go towards belief that all people are the same. By the way, that's exactly what we say, but we say they are the same because every one of us is created in the image of God. And there is no place for politics or countries or states or even values unless they were decided by human beings. So I actually, when I talk to a teenager today, and by the way, it doesn't make a difference if he's religious or not, I see in front of me a secular person because I know that over the years he was trained to think in a very modern way, which in a way reject the existence of God in this world. And that's to me a given. I'm not asking someone, do you believe in God or not? Because even the people who will tell you that they believe in God, they don't fully understand what God means. When you speak to them, I would say the following: they believe in God in their image. They create, we believe that God created us in his image. But what I realize over years is that actually, for most people, God is created in the image of man and not the vice versa. So when I talk to young people, that's my assumption. They don't believe in God. And we try to discuss it. I never fail into debate. Um, because I don't think that it's an issue of debate. Debate is two people who have strong opinions about something and they disagree. I find that the world knows very little about the idea of God and what does it mean. So it's not a debate, it's more like a discussion. And we have these discussions. Sometimes people say, okay, this is something new to think about. Sometimes people will leave the discussion exactly as they came, which is perfectly fine with me. But it's a major question because the progressive world is certainly want to see the world run by human beings. Time were changed dramatically from the time of my parents and certainly grandparents and certainly great parents. And the world seems to run very well, even if we will not take the godly factor into it.
So would you say then that there are, even from students, from children, who either don't believe in God or don't have that understanding of God, of being created in his image?
Um, I want to be very sharp here and very blunt. And this is one thing that I don't know if I will not change my mind in 2 minutes after saying it, but which happened from time to time. Um, People talk about machloket with another person, and they don't seems to see that many times the machloket, the disagreement, is within themselves. They can change their minds very quickly. Um, I think, in a way, that religious students um, how to put it in a way that is not going to be too like bombshell, like on the head of the listeners here. They know about God less than anyone else. Why? Because God is associated with rituals, davening, benching, but God is an idea. God is someone that you feel and know his existence around you all the time. The davening is built upon a connection with God that has to be expressed in certain words. Recognizing God is to say a blessing on an apple or on the bread, and after that, to thank God. It's an experience that is formulated by words. And sometimes the people who are bound to words and rituals feel very good about it. I put my tefillin, I say my davening, but sometimes it gives them a very good excuse not to look into things. Why are we doing it? Why do I have to daven? Do I really feel the need to daven, or automatically at 7:30 I'm going to minyan? So I would say that there is no difference, and I wonder how many people who learn Talmud and learn Mishnah and learn Torah actually learn what God means. Maybe in the Hasidic world or Chabad, they really pay attention to these questions in a serious way. But I think that if you take 95% of Jewish education, I don't think that people talk about what is God, who is God, what is my connection to God. And this is even in Jewish day schools, Jewish day schools and religious day schools, even in yeshivot.
One day we're going to have a discussion about how one comes to God. Because I would like to hear that from you.
I wish I can explain it, because then maybe I will be a little bit closer to God. And listen, you know what? It's really not. It's a very dynamic thing. Can I tell you that every day of my life I feel very connected to God? I'll be very honest. I'll be very honest. The answer is no. The answer is no. Are there times that I feel very connected and very grateful to God? Absolutely yes. But it's something that you have to work all the time, all the time. It's something that, as I say, life around us are pushing us away from the bind to God, from the connection to God. And if you don't work on it, you will be drifted away all the time. No questions about it.
You're a good Jew, you know? You're a good Jew.
Alevai.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Parsha and Prose. It is our weekly show on learning Torah, the portion of a week, or what we call the Parsha. And we do it through the lens of classic literature. And this week we're learning the Parsha, which is called Naso. Naso happens to be the longest Parsha in the Torah. I believe it's 176 psukim, which is lines. And let me tell you a little bit about it, and then I will tell you about the novel that is going to help us understand the Parsha more so, Anna Karenina. And the Torah portion of Naso, which is Numbers 4:21 to 7:8-9, is the second portion of the book of Numbers. It's one of the longest in the Torah. It's rich with diverse themes and laws that reflect the spiritual and communal lives of the Israelites. Read during the week of the Shavuot holiday, which we just came through, Naso continues the narrative of the Israelites' journey in the wilderness, focusing on the organization of the camp, ritual purity, and the consecration of the tabernacle. The key elements include the census of the Levite clans, which is a fascinating piece, laws concerning the Nazirite vow, and the Sotah, which we will get into. The priestly blessing, the offerings of the tribal leaders for the tabernacle's dedication. Naso emphasizes holiness, individual commitment, and communal responsibility, offering timeless insight into balancing personal devotion with collective unity. Anna Karenina was written by Leo Tolstoy and was first published in serial form between 1875 and 1877. It's widely regarded as one of the greatest works of literature ever. It's set against the backdrop of 19th century Russian society. The sprawling novel explores the complexity of human relationships, societal expectations, and the search for personal fulfillment. At its heart is the tragic story of Anna Karenina, a married aristocrat whose passionate affair with Count Vronsky unravels her life, defying the rigid moral and social conventions of her time. Tolstoy weaves a rich tapestry of characters and themes, juxtaposing Anna's tumultuous journey with the quieter, introspective struggle of Konstantin Levin, a landowner grappling with questions of faith, purpose, and rural life. Through its vivid portrayal of love, betrayal, and existential longing, the novel delves into universal questions about happiness, duty, and the consequences of individual choices. With its profound psychological depth and unflinching examination of human nature, the novel remains a timeless exploration of the tensions between personal desires and societal pressures. Rabbi, why these two?
That's a very good question. First of all, I always wanted to talk about Anna Karenina because Anna Karenina opened to me, first of all, the gates to Russian literature.
Yeah.
When I read this one, I knew that I have to read every important Russian novel that was written. And I wouldn't say it changed my life, but it changed my perspective on literature. And I saw for the first time the beauty of things that we really deal with. When I read Anna Karenina, to the point that when I read it, I decided that I have to know something about like the Russian language. And to try, this was my dream, never fulfilled, and I don't think it will be fulfilled, to read the book in Russian, because language, the original language, always have a very profound impact. I managed to do one chapter with heavy translation to English, but I love Russian, and Anna Karenina is the reason for it. In our parsha, we have two, in a way, tragic people. The first one is the Sotah, a lady which is suspected of having an affair with someone else, and all the torture that she's going through in order to purify herself or to prove that indeed she did something very wrong. Well, the story of Anna Karenina is certainly a story about a Sotah, a lady that made some choices under, although she was married at the time. But when I think about Levin, I think about the Nazir, the person who looks for a deeper meaning for his life. He finds his life kind of, even with the whole system of mitzvot, he's looking for something of beyond. And the book talking about Karenina and Anna Karenina, and talking about Levin as a person who come from he thinks that he knows what is the right way in life, but he realized more and more that actually that he's looking for a fire pillar that will lead him, and it does not exist. He's eaten by his own doubts, and he's looking for a way to go higher. And to me, it's exactly what drives the Nazir. And these two stories, because basically, if you read Anna Karenina, you read two different stories, and this is a major point for all the people who try to understand Anna Karenina. Why Tolstoy put two stories that seems to be very, very unrelated, actually, together? And isn't it amazing that the Torah itself put the two stories of Nazir, of a person who who decide to become holier than everyone else and put upon himself all kind of restriction that even the Torah does not require him to do. And kind of Anna Karenina, the story of Sotah, of a lady that had an affair while she was married. So apparently the Torah sees some connection here that Tolstoy sensed. I don't say that Tolstoy, made the Anna Karenina, the Dvar Torah, to explain the two. But you have like the most profound, or one of the most profound writers who put these two stories together, and Hashem himself, God himself, who put the two stories together in our Parsha. Isn't that amazing?
Rabbi, just talking about the Nazir for a moment, it's a person who denies himself wine, grapes, anything coming from the grapes and from wine. Denies himself. He doesn't cut his hair. He doesn't come close to a dead body. I'm just curious as to why that same person doesn't ensconce himself in 5 or 6 of the mitzvot in the Torah, up his level of learning, make sure that his level of chesed and giving, having people in his house, going to visit the sick, enhances the quality of those mitzvot. Why does he take those 3 pieces as opposed to just making the mitzvot that he's involved in on a regular basis more quality in his life?
This is a very difficult question, but let's discover the pshat level, like the surface. What do we have here? We have a person who decided or has to remove himself from wine. Number one, he has to grow his hair, and the growing of the hair is actually just a step before he shave it off completely, and has to keep himself away from society. And why I say away from society, because when you are mingled in society, you are going to see life over the entire spectrum. People are born, but people are also dead. The Nazir has to be in a constant mind that he cannot come across a dead person. Now, today it's a little bit easier because people, go to the hospital, and many people, if not most people, will die while getting final treatment. But think about the world of the Torah, where people lived at a home and they were born at home and died at home. This was almost impossible. The Nazir has to confine himself to his house just to make sure that he does not come across a dead body or even being under the same roof with a dead body. I think that Nazir is a result of trauma. The fact that the Torah tells us that he cannot be with wine, I think hint that apparently this guy had an issue with wine. If it's addiction or not, or just living the good life that are always associated with wine and drinking, he has to remove himself from it. Beautiful hair. Avrum, you have one. I already don't, but beautiful hair is always like one of the symbols of the good life with women, with other people. Like, people want to look good, they take care over their hair. And to me, the fact that he knows that when he enters the whole process of Nazirut, he's going to end up like a monk in Tibet, it's a trauma that somehow connected to hair, to beauty, to the external world. And again, the fact that he cannot actually coming in a free way into society is telling me that this person has to remove himself from the regular life. Why a person will do something like this? To me, it sounds like a trauma. And the person who wants to remove himself from it, he disappointed with life. He's disappointed with trying to be happy through wine and beauty and women, and he decided to remove himself from it. He came to a point that he hit a low point in his life, and he want to to try to, in a last effort to make himself a holy person, because his neshama feel that this is not the life of meaning or fulfilling the why I'm here. But you see that the Torah itself requires the Nazir to bring korban, which is korban chatat. Why korban chatat? Korban chatat you bring for a sin. What is the sin here? On the contrary, the person is sanctify himself. But this sanctity maybe comes after a history that is hidden from our eyes. It comes to the feel good of, removing my past behind me, which was not so holy, and try to go to another path. And the Torah said, you know what? You have to remember that too. Don't just focus on your holiness now, but you have to look upon life in a greater vision. Like, why did you need to be this? Because you were right. There are so many beautiful ways to sanctify ourselves in many, many ways. Why should a person go beyond what the Torah requires and make himself Nazir? Extreme steps like this is because apparently something extremely wrong came before it. That's my take on it.
Have you ever known a Nazir?
No.
There are Nazirim today.
Not so much in the Jewish tradition, because you cannot be a Nazir. At the moment you are a Nazir, as they say, like, Nazir has to be pure from any contact with dead, and no one of us today it can be. You can adapt certain things, but a person cannot say today I'm going to be a Nazir, because there is no meaning to something like this.
Yeah, the only reason I say that is because if you were to go on YouTube and you do a search on Nazirite or Nazir, you will find an individual who lives in Jerusalem, I believe, who has very, very long hair. It looks like dreadlocks, actually.
Yeah, there was a person. He was the father-in-law of Rabbi Goren, who was Rab David Cohen, who was a Nazir, a very holy person. But it's more like symbol of Nazirut, and not the biblical Nazirite.
Okay, very good. Rabbi, the Sotah ritual in Naso stems from a husband's jealousy, potentially leading to a woman's disgrace. How does jealousy drive Anna's downfall in her relationship with Vronsky and Karenina? And what do both texts suggest about the destructive power of unchecked emotions?
So you go to the end of the story where Vronsky realized that Anna has actually an affair, and actually her heart is not at home, not even with her child, and she fell in love with Vronsky. But there is a whole denial until this point, where even when he said that things are going wrong, it was a friend of him who told him to be aware of what's going on. And apparently, many, many times, that's exactly the dynamics. We want to deny a crisis in our home, and we will do any psychological effort not to see it. The jealousy is a result when you actually accept the fact that something is going wrong. And I want to say here something very, very important. We read the story about the Sotah, and it sounds like the husband is the victim and the woman is the villain. But I think when you read a little bit deeper the story, there is a mutual responsibility here. And without taking any blame or responsibility from the woman, this is always a result of a crisis, of not understanding each other, of not building relationship which is going to work. And again, the two stories of Tolstoy in Anna Karenina are talking exactly about this one. Anna Karenina and her husband had wonderful life. To the outside, it looked like everything is perfect. He got a wonderful job. She was beautiful, and they went to all the events of the high society. Everything was fine. But deep inside, she feels that something is missing in her life. And her husband, his mind and heart is to his job, to his duties. But what about your wife at home? And Levin is exactly the opposite. When he get married at the end, after all the story with Kitty who went away, they build a house together from difficulties. Their life start with serious difficulties and differences, but they work together to build a house. And I think Tolstoy here is telling us the truth of life. Love, true love, is also a result of hard work. It's beautiful, when there is a spark and there is an immediate love, but sometimes it's not going to last. It's going to end up with a tragedy, as happened at the end to Anna Karenina. True love is a love that you build together, and it's going through many, many difficulties. But nevertheless, it's love based on meaning, responsibility, commitment. And this is the most important word that I believe Tolstoy want to teach us in this beautiful book. One of, as I said, maybe the best piece of literature written. Some people certainly believe so. And this is about commitment, because our life always, we are easy to fall in love with many, many things in our life. But commitment has to be the foundation to every relationship we have. Otherwise, it's going to end up under the wheels of the train, like what happened to Anna Karenina, and losing everything in the way, because she lost her husband, she lost her sons, her Yoja, and she lost everything. And this is a Musar book, for our listener. Musar book means like the Mesilat Yesharim, like the book that talks about building a character. And if you read this book is about exactly that, like what we want and what we have to do.
Rabbi, I want to give you a quote from the novel. And
Give me the first line. Oh, I love the first line.
I want to give you, yeah. So that's it. So, and I want you to answer the question through this, what the Torah is telling us about marriage. And early on in Bereshit, we actually see that God instructs man to leave his parents and to find a woman and to make a family. And I've always wondered about that, why it's so early on in the Torah, and what is the essence, the core of marriage, of a man and a woman together. And the quote is part 1, chapter 1, all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way.
Tell me, how can you, I remember when I read this line, I knew that I'm going to fall in love with this book. Right. How profound is this? How profound is this statement? Beautiful.
It's profound, but I want you to answer my question.
Yes.
What is marriage? What do we know about marriage? Let's say through the story of the Sotah.
I will say there are two words. And the biggest stories, unlike Tolstoy, who as we spoke before, draw every little shade of the character in a masterful way. The Torah has a very different way. The Torah has a white stroke. It's more abstract, and I'm talking to a painter here, a more abstract thing that you have to see the beauty in the white strokes. And the Torah said, when Hashem decided to create the woman, the Torah said, I'm going to make a helper or assistance to him for him. That's a usual translation. I don't have a translated Bible in front of me, but Ezer Kenegdo means a helper for him. But in real Hebrew, Ezer Kenegdo is actually an oxymoron, because Ezer is a helper, Kenegdo is against him. Keneged, when I speak in Hebrew, when I say Keneged, it's against someone. Like one team is playing against Keneged another team. So how is it possible that God created this oxymoron, Ezer Kenegdo? Maybe that's the reason why many people find it very hard to understand the spouse, and maybe. But the Natziv, who lived about 150 years ago and wrote a beautiful commentary on the Torah by the name Ha'amek Dabar, explained it in the most beautiful way. And it really addressed Anna Karenina in a most beautiful way. And he said the following: sometimes our greatest help is someone who is against us. Because if everyone will tell you how great you are not going to improve. The great help we get in life is sometimes can be a reason to fight all the time. But if you are great enough, you are going to appreciate the fact that you get feedback, which sometimes is not so pleasant. But it's an opportunity to change, to grow, to inspire. So he said what God did is something which is not exactly like the Adam. It was either by what? By being against him. So they have different directions sometimes, different thoughts, different highlights about life. So what we used to think that sometimes people who are exactly the same are going to be the happiest people. Well, sometimes it happens. But I think that deep inside and behind doors, even the happiest couples, they are happy because they develop the ability to listen to the other one and to accept constructive criticism. This is very important. Of course, we can ruin any relationship by just being critical and unpleasant to each other. But I can't believe that there is a couple that will not share sometimes different opinions and disagreements. The beauty of a wonderful life is the ability to accept it. So this is one way that the Torah describes the relationship between husband and wife. And I would say that the story of Sotah is a story of miscommunication. It's a point where I guess why a woman would find like affair with someone else, because the husband is not listening to her, is not caring about her. So, the Torah does not talk about this side, but if you read the story of Sotah, you see that the husband had to take her to the Kohen, and he plays a major part here also. Although the ultimate responsibility, according to the Torah, lies with the woman. There is no question about it. But the Torah does not take him and say to him, oh, he's a righteous person, it's only the woman. No. He has to take part in the entire process of Sotah. There is another word which I think is very, very important, and the Torah says, "V'davak beishto." Devek in Hebrew means glue. And this is very, very profound, because when you glue to your wife, it means that you are together in the high points of life and you are together in the low points of life. Because if I glue something together, it means that the two parts now become connected. If this is going to the east, the glued object is going to the east too. If this is going to the west, it's going to carry both of them together. And again, the story of Sotah is a story of lack of glue, lack of being together, of the connection. So you see that already from the beginning of relationship between men and a woman, described in the beginning of Bereshit, in the beginning of the Torah, the Sotah represent not Vedavak Bishto. On the contrary, it's a separation, a story of separation, and Ezer Kenegdo. They lost the ability to live together through a process of growing and inspiration, and deterrent to be very, very sour.
Excellent. Rabbi, I think it's correct to say that the story of Korach is a story of jealousy, one man against another. there is an argument to be made that the story of Nadav and Avihu was also a story of jealousy, that they only went halfway up the mountain. Moses went the entire way. These were individuals who wanted to be what Moshe Rabbeinu was. They were jealous. How serious is jealousy um, in terms of God's understanding of human behavior?
The way I see it, God is the ultimate good. So how is it possible that we have all kind of flaws in human nature? If God created us, we're supposed to be perfect, isn't it? And jealousy is actually a perfect thing. What do I mean by this? There is a beautiful verse that King Solomon said in Mishnah, in Proverbs, and he said, "Kinat sofrim tarbe chokhmah." The jealousy of smart people is going to grow more wisdom. So when God created jealousy, he did not create it to be jealous of the person who just bought the car of 2026. He created it as a motivator to gain more wisdom. But like any other gift that God gave us, we human beings found all our way to corrupt the beautiful gift that Hashem gave us. So we jealous about the things which are not important in life instead of being jealous. And you know what? To be honest with you, I jealous of people who completed their PhD. I really jealous.
Yeah, so am I.
And many times I think to myself, can I still, make my PhD, can go back to university? And this is a beautiful thing, because if I would not be jealous of these people, I will have zero motivation to even think about it. So God created it for the good things. I envy people who finish the Shas 7 or 8 times, because I would love to be in their place. So jealousy is wonderful. Jealousy in nonsense is really ugly. That's the point.
Is jealousy and envy different?
My English is not good enough to differentiate. You tell me.
I was always under the understanding that jealousy is something I want to take away from somebody. The envy is something that I want for myself, but I don't want to take it from them.
That's a beautiful distinction.
Rabbi Akiva in the first century, he emphasized the ritual's miraculous nature. I'm talking about Sotah and its role in revealing divine truth. He connects the Sotah outcome to divine justice, noting that the bitter waters work only if the husband is free of sin. Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai is credited with abolishing the Sotah ritual due to increasing moral laxity, viewing it as no longer effective in deterring sin in a corrupt society. This is a fascinating thing to me.
It is
right? Yeah, you go ahead.
It is fascinating thing, and it really in the core of the science of understanding criminology, understanding like crimes. Punishment is as good as it set the standards to behaviors of society. The moment these standards are broken, there is no point in punishment.
Yes.
That's the reason why they canceled Sotah. That's the reason why they canceled death in bathing. As long as people lived moral life, you had to say, okay, here is a red line. But when every red line is crossed, what is the point? What is the point of keeping the punishment, which is part of educational system? Punishment upon the Torah is not a punishment in the way we talk about punishment, to cause pain, to inflict harm. Is to set clear guides, what is permissible and what is not. What is the standards of society? But once the society is corrupt for whatever reason, the punishment abolish, because number one, they don't achieve what they suppose, and number two, because they are violent. If you kill a person and you are not going to contribute anything to the world, just like to to take your anger and the need to act against the person who caused the terrible thing, then you're violent. You yourself is violent because you just want to inflict pain on another person. So as long as it serves as a reminder to us what is allowed, what is not, well, this has educational benefit to the person who was involved in a crime and to the society in large to know what we cannot stand for, what are the red lines of society. But at the time of Beit HaMikdash, to stone a person for not keeping Shabbat, where everyone is not keeping Shabbat, what is it? What do you achieve by it? The Torah never wanted to punish. The Torah never wanted to stone people for the sake of like entertainment on Sunday or Friday. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to set guidelines. You know, I just read, I wonder what you think about it. An Israeli guy recently visited Saudi Arabia. And I want to be clear, I'm not going to praise their system of punishment, but I want to tell you a story. He was very impressed. He forgot his cell phone on a public bench next to a stadium. He came after 4 hours. It was exactly in the same place where clearly thousands of people are walking by. And he said it was the first time that he asked himself, like, the punishment for stealing in Saudi Arabia is cutting your hand. Now, again, even the Torah does not go, this direction at all. The Torah has a very educational punishment for this, and this is you took something that was $1,000, you are going to pay $2,000 because the Torah wants you to feel what does it mean to lose $1,000. So it's educational. But he said it was the first time. He said, I know that in every other place in the world, I will not find my cell phone after 2 minutes. 4 hours, it was sitting there, no one touched it. So, punishments has their merit when they educate society and when they keep clear guidelines. And again, it's not a call to adopt this kind of ideas here. But I think in the core of it, punishment must set clear boundaries. So in a society that is, corrupt, women don't feel the commitment to their husband, let's say, chas v'shalom. What is the point to go through the whole process of Sotah, especially when it involves the deleting of the name of God, which is one of the most beautiful ideas in the Sotah. In the Sotah, you take the name of God, the most holy thing in the world, and you have to put it into the water so the ink disappears. The name of God disappear to teach you that the most important thing is Shalom Bayit, is living together in a house with peace between the husband and the wife. And for this, God himself instructs us, don't care about me, don't care about my name. I want you to be happy and to love each other. But in a society that don't get it, then the whole punishment is actually serving exactly the opposite. It will turn people away. It will turn people against the standards of the Torah. So there is some partnership between the Torah standards and the world standards around us.
Another ingredient that goes into the Sotah is earth, is the soil, is dirt from the tabernacle. I found that very interesting as well.
In what way?
Why? Why would that be included in the Sotah?
It's very interesting, but it going back, our sages also asked the same question, like why to take the sand, and they connect it to something that Abraham said to God. He told God, I'm afar va'efer, I'm a person of dirt and ashes. Mm-hmm. And for these beautiful words, the way he described himself in front of God, his children got 2 mitzvot. The ashes is the ashes of Para Aduma, the red heifer. And the afar is the mitzvah of Sotah, which is Afar HaMishkan. But I think the idea here is very, very important because Afar, the soil of the Mishkan, Afar is a potential to grow things. Like you take a piece of afar, you put a seed inside, and beautiful tree or flowers can grow from. And I think that part of the ritual, when you think about water and you think about soil from the Mishkan, there is a message of growing. If everything is going to be okay, the wife is not going to die, there is a need to grow, the need to water the relationship that we have with our spouse. There is a need to have like the fertile soil that help us to build a house and a home for our families.
I think the earth also adds a holiness to the Sotah, which is important in that process. And I say this because in this same Parsha, there's a commandment to take the individual outside of the camp who has Torah, so who has an emission of sorts. And in essence, and I talked about this in my shir last night, that they are considered tameh. And for them to be in the same place where God lives, where God comes down, v'shachanti b'tocham, would be an imbalance, would be wrong, would be inappropriate. So I think there's something inherently holy about the earth itself.
Beautiful.
Rabbi, in conclusion, before I read you an AI poem, there is something in the Gemara which is called Agarata, and loosely defined, it's stories within the Torah, within the Gemara. And some of them are very beautiful. Some of them are extraordinarily difficult to understand. I'm going to tell you a very short story, and I'm going to make it even shorter. I believe this is in Sotah itself, that there were a woman who was accused of being a Sotah. And her husband was going to take her to the Kohen, as the Torah prescribes. And she would have to drink the Sotah. She comes to her sister, who is a twin, and she says, "My dear, I can't do this. You need to go in my place." No questions asked. The sister says, "I'll go in your place." She goes. She drinks the Sotah. The husband doesn't recognize her as not being his wife. She drinks the Sotah. She's okay. She comes back to her sister to tell her the good news. As they approach, as sisters do, they hug, they kiss, and they kiss on the lips. Immediately, the sister, who was the wife itself, she drops and she dies. Yo, the first time I read that, I had smarmoret. I had shivers. You know the story? You know the Agarata?
I know the story, and it's hinted by Rashi. Rashi, I'm not sure that it appears in the Talmud. I cannot say that I remember everything, but I do remember that Rashi actually points it out. That actually a word in the Torah is telling us that this test of the Sotah is working only for the woman who actually sinned. It's not going to work with someone else in her behalf. And Rashi said, as we know the story about the two sisters, so there is a source to it, but I'm not sure it's in the Talmud or not. Anyway, yeah. But I want to tell you something very interesting. The first time that I met a person by the name of Avrum Rosensweig was on Shabbat. And he asked me about this Midrash. He was, and I think it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago, it was you. And you asked me about it. I saw that it really bothered you to the core. And I have bad news for you, Avrum. Until this moment, I'm not sure that I understand this story.
Okay, fair enough. But it was very nice to meet you, by the way.
Thank you. But I remember that this was the first discussion we had about this very Midrash.
I remember outside the shul. Yes.
Exactly.
Rabbi, an AI poem, Ode to Naso, through the lens of...
Before you start,
yeah,
I want to do tshuva in front of all our listeners. Usually I listen with a smile, and I'm not sure what the value of this AI poem. 2 weeks ago, a person came to me and said, Rabbi Gemara, I actually like the AI poems because it actually amazingly enough, it summarizes many things
Yeah.
that you and Avrum are talking about, and it's amazing how the AI can connect the dots.
Yeah.
So he thought that we plan our discussion ahead, and you write your AA poem upon our previous discussion. And I said, "Trust me, we come." I never heard Avrum question before, and yes, it's apparently quite amazing that the AI managed to explore and to reveal some of the secrets of the Torah. So I myself like doing tshuva, and I will start taking it more seriously, Avram.
Yeah, I accept your apology. I don't know if there's one in there, but to me, it's phenomenal how different people hear different things. Some people do not like the poems at all, and I think I've mentioned this before. I read these I create poems through AI through many of my guests, not on Parsha and Prose. As an example, Bob Ray, who is Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, wasn't interested at all. He felt it was
Oh,
very hollow, right?
uh,
But I agree with you. I think that the AI poems are only getting better, and they really do summarize what we're trying to accomplish here. So let me read this one for today. In the camp of Naso, where tribes align, the Levites bear burdens, their roles divine. Like Anna, who danced neath society's gaze, each soul seeks its place in the Torah's maze. The Sotah stands, suspicion clouds her name, a ritual of truth to douse the flame. So Anna with Vronsky defies the crowd. Her heart's bold vow, both fierce and unbowed. Yet jealousy, like dust in Naso's right, consumes the heart, eclipsing love's light. The Nazirite shuns wine, his hair left to grow, a sacred oath where purity seeds are sown. Levin too seeks the truth in fields of grain, his soul a vow, though bound by worldly pain. Both flee the fleeting, chasing heaven's call, yet stumble where desire and duty fall. The priests raise hands, their blessings soft as dew. May peace be yours, they pray for hearts anew. Kitty's gentle love, like balm, would strive to mend, but Anna's path leads far from peace's end. Her world, like Naso's camp, demands its due, order unbroken, though hearts break in two. 12 tribes bring gifts, each offering the same, unity forged in the tabernacle's flame. But Anna, cast out, finds no equal share. Her love a spark society cannot bear. In Naso's law, the camp holds firm and tight, while Anna's heart burns lonely through the night. Vows in the Torah bind the soul to God, yet Anna's promise crumble on mortal sod. From Naso's altar to Russia's gilded halls, the heart's rebellion answers both their calls. In sacred test and Tolstoy's anguished art, we see the cost of straying from the heart. That's a nice piece.
I think it's a beautiful piece
That's a
because
nice
it's actually
piece.
revealed something very profound in the heart of the parsha, which is talking about the need for not unity, because it's a very artificial word, but like homogeneous life around values, which shared values, I would say. And it actually highlights the Nessim, for example, that now I better understand like their gifts, which were exactly the same. Actually, the poem open here a window to see that there is a great value in shared values, and that's what it comes to show, that all of them, although very different from each other, which is represented in the way they are encamping in the desert, there is a shared value of closeness to God. And, I never paid attention to this. And when you contrast it with the story of the Sotah, it gives you like a bigger picture, which is beautiful. So, Yashar Koyach to the AI commentary.
Yishkoach to it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and for listening. The Rabbi and I wish you a beautiful Shabbat, a beautiful weekend, and peace in the world.
Only the
Am
Shabbat to
Yisroel
vote.
Chai. Amen. Proud to be a Jew. Learn your Torah, man, because it's going to make you even prouder. Any concluding words, Rabbi?
I just want to end with what you said: four fallen soldiers. How can it? it be like a regular Shabbat and not a Shabbat of grief. We have to be happy on Shabbat, but when we do the Kiddush, when we go through Shabbat, let's remember the family that their world collapsed. They will never be the same people. Let's hope that Hashem is going to give them the strength.
Amen.
And more important, that Hashem will end this bad news for the Jewish people.
Amen. Am Yisrael Chai, Shabbat Shalom, and thank you so much for joining us.